Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you're new to this channel, or you have not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they're live, and a link in the info box below the video once it's rendered. But most importantly, if you would like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the shape of the Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show. Sharing the show increases the live audience, of course, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show. And one last time, if you are new to the channel or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now we are joined by Zoe Scribner, Nummy Num, Anthony. How are you all doing, ladies and gentlemen, today?
Very, very, very hot today.
Is that so? Great opener from the only female on the panel in about 3 months.
Yeah, it's glorious today as well for me. Nathan, what's the weather like for you today?
Miserable, raining.
Oh, well, all's good. Is Nummy with us?
Yep.
Probably
it's beautiful
still
morning here in Toronto. Warm.
not
already.
still dark then. Not still dark where you are.
Yeah. No, it's already a beautiful day in the neighborhood. Sunny.
Did,
warm. I'm wearing
before-
a tank top in my backyard.
Before the intro, Nummy, did you get privy to any of the conversation? Oh, I didn't introduce Arwin. It's because his thumbnail's black. Hey, Arwin.
Free Tommy Robinson.
Good to have you also. Sorry I didn't introduce you. Did either of you catch the conversation between Arwin and Anthony about the angular size change not being included in the curve mathematics? Did either of you get privileged to that conversation?
Yeah,
Well, I
why are
haven't-
you so wrong? No.
About you, Zoe.
I had a chat with Anthony yesterday on Skype, and so yeah, I'm aware of the issue. We had our own discussion about it.
About you, Zoe. You aware of this, or is this new to you? Gone.
Could you repeat again? Sorry.
Well, I'll give a mild intro to what Anthony's about to explain. So yesterday there was a bit of a back and forth between all of us in regards to whether or not the presuppositional curve calculations for a sphere Earth actually account for angular size change as well as drop / curve / obstruction / distance to horizon. Is it actually accounted for things getting smaller in the distance as well as them dropping by perspective? So with that, I'll round out with you, Zoe, and then hopefully hand over to Anthony. So that's the general gist of it. Have you been privileged to any conversations behind the scenes in this regard?
No, unfortunately, I haven't.
Well, this will be a treat.
Yes.
Over to you,
no.
Anthony.
I had to turn off my computer yesterday because it was overheating. Distant things.
Well, tell us about that whilst the dogs go, because they're just literally going out the door because it's they're getting all excited. So the leads are going to be jangling and they're going to start squeaking. Oh no, they're gone. We're straight. All right. So yesterday, I didn't really articulate myself well because I wasn't quite sure how to word what I was trying to say, and Nathan basically disagreed with the point that he thought I was making on a point that we both actually agree on. So Nathan kind of misheard what was said and then later changed his position and said, no, actually, I get what you're saying now. I misunderstood. And the point is that the point I was making yesterday, let me just get the curve cards up. Nathan, would you present my screen, see me play? Curve. And share screen. Right, so are we on?
Yep, you're on.
Right, so yesterday, what I was trying to say yesterday is that this is a side profile. It's an orthographic representation of the world that we're supposed to live on. And I was playing around to make this bulge, get it to kind of scale. I was messing around with it whilst I was thinking on the fly, and I realised that there's an easier way to describe this. And because there's no science for a flat Earth, I was trying to get what I wanted to say out, but I was making a hash of it. So basically, I'm going to rephrase and reword what was said yesterday, so that it's clear and concise for everybody to understand. Firstly, this is an orthographic representation. It's a side profile that none of us see the world. We do not see the world like this. We do not look over no hump like this. The way we see the world is through the eye. We don't see it from the side profile. And in this side profile representation, this is orthographic. It's not in a perspective view. So we don't see it from this viewpoint. We see it from the eye. And basically, if you're looking at an object, the further that object goes away from you, it changes its apparent size and it gets smaller. Now, I don't think there's anybody that's going to disagree with that. We all accept that as things go further away, they appear to get smaller. And it's the consequence of distance from the observer. It's perspective. Now, if we can all agree that objects get smaller as they go further away, rather than putting your eyeball and looking at a mountain, for example, on the side profile, imagine that you're looking straight down the tunnel, and the mountain is at the end of the tunnel. And as that mountain gets further away and it gets smaller, that's the way that we see our world. Now, this maths does not take into account that size reduction when you're looking at a mountain over distance, because what it would do is it put a triangle at the beginning, it put the same triangle at the end, and then it would show that the hidden part of it would chop off the bottom part of it, but it wouldn't show any reduction in size because it doesn't account for it. It isn't part of the maths in this example at all. So by doing it this way, it allows this mathematical representation to mislead you into thinking that the angular size reduction, because of the distance that you're observing the object at, is not part of the. Basically, it's not. It makes you think that doesn't even exist. Now, of course, it does exist in the real world. So I was speaking to a couple of friends on Flat Earth side because I needed to work out how to word this and get my point across. And shout out to Adam Meakin from Iron Realm Media, because he was the one that said to me, "Have you seen Taboo Conspiracy's video on this?" Now, I watch all of his videos, and I've never seen this one. And I realised that this was done very recently. I've not seen it because of being away or whatever, but this was done very recently, right? But it's only had 1,600 views. And this is really important because no one has seen it. So I'm going to plug the hell out of this now. And I'm going to start with a disclaimer. You've got to have some intelligence to work this out. If you are the rumpus, you are going to understand my point and you're going to dismiss it with nonsense because you've got the intelligence to understand the point, but you will find a way to obfuscate it and basically dismiss it with ridicule. If you're of the Dawn Treader mold, you're going to struggle with this because you will dismiss it because of your own capacity. Now, that's honest, and I accept that most people won't get this. But if you're towards the Dawn Treader mold, then you're not going to understand it, and that's fine. If you don't understand it, that's fine. However, if you've got the intellect and you still disagree with this afterwards, then we have a big problem, and it's called lying. And one of us is lying, and it ain't going to be me. Now, the reason why this is important is because the work's already been done in the last week or so by Taboo Conspiracy. So in this example, he's got a mountain, and that mountain is 82 miles away, called Grand Tourmaline. So it's 82 miles away, and it's 11,000 feet. But Mount Blanc behind it is 122 miles away, but it's got a total elevation of 15,000 feet. So the query on this video is, if the Earth was flat, which one would be above the other? Now, we got onto this with the Isle of Man thing, but because Snaefell and North Barul were so close to each other, it wasn't really a good example. Mm-hmm. So I'm thinking right now of Philip. I'm thinking of Rumpus. I'm thinking of Ruhif. These are all the people that were saying things like, well, North Barul should be above it and blah, blah, blah. But the fact was, we couldn't conclude it either way because the mountains were so close to each other. The difference between the two was negligible. And it could go either way. And that was the conclusion. We didn't know because it wasn't a good example on that occasion. But these two mountains have got massive separation. They've got 82 miles over 122 miles. And we've got a difference in height. And we have the relationship between the two mountains that we can compare and contrast with both models to see what the outcome should be. Now, what Taboo Conspiracy does is he shows this on a flat plane and he shows it on a sphere. Now, on a flat plane, what should happen is that Grand Tourmaline should appear slightly bigger than the mountain in the background. And he does the maths for it. He works out the perspective. And if we live on a flat plane, that's where it stops. You just reduce the size of the apparent size of the mountain based on its distance down to the size, down to the correct distance, and then you measure the size, which is what's happened in this video. You then do the same to Mount Blanc. You know its distance, you know its apparent size to the other one, and then using the angular size calculator, which he does at this part of the video, he works out what the actual sizes should be. And the conclusion of it is that Grand Tourmaline, if the Earth was flat, should appear slightly bigger than the mountain in the background. Now, this is maths, right? And anybody can challenge it, anybody can verify it, and everybody can check it. And I would challenge everybody on the ball side to go to somebody that you appeal to be credible, and to apply the maths in this example and confirm that if the Earth was flat, Grand Tourmaline should appear slightly bigger than the mountain in the background. Now, what he then does in this video is that he then applies the curve calcs to the two mountains. He applies the hidden value to this one, he applies the hidden value to this one, and then the conclusion is it also appears to match the ball model. Now, we can't live on both. So there's something wrong in the math somewhere, because this supports flat, but it also supports ball on the refractive values on the Metabunk curve calculator. However, on the curve calculator, there is no adjustment made for the angular size resolution change, the angular size of the mountain change, when the hidden is applied. So when you just apply the hidden, you get the same result. It appears to support both models, and obviously it can't support both models because we don't live on a fluid world. It's one or the other. One of them must be wrong.
Well, it's kind of obvious what's going on, and that is that the curve calculator is basically a machination.
Getting a bit of feedback.
replaces-
Can you guys mute? Sorry, guys.
Yeah.
Sorry. Hold on, Owen. Hold on. Can you just mute if you're not talking? There's quite a lot of feedback going on.
So what he shows in this video is that if you apply the curve calcs, the hidden value against these mountains based on their distances, then you get the same result. And it appears to support curve when you do it like this. But one of them must be wrong. One of them must be proven to be wrong, and why. And then he said, okay, now let's do the curve calcs, but instead of just doing the hidden values on these two mountains, let's also reduce the angular size, the apparent angular size, down to their size that they would appear to the observer, and then apply the drop. And the reason for that is, when we're looking through our eyes, we have an angular size reduction in the height of the mountains, the apparent size changes, and we all accept that that's what happens, but it also drops behind the curve on a ball. Now, on a flat plane, it doesn't do that. There is no curve. But on a ball, it drops its angular size, and it drops behind the curve. So when he did the maths on it, not including the hidden, he starts off by reducing the mountain first and then applying the hidden value to it. All of a sudden, this mountain, this Mount Blanc, is 60% of the height of the mountain in the foreground. So this Grand Tourmaline is basically double the height. So this would drop behind the mountain that's in the foreground, and you would not see any of it. And that's once you make the reduction for the angular size and then apply the curve or the hidden to it. And that's the difference between the two. What they're doing is that they're passing off the curve calcs with the hidden value, which is basically perspective. They're making it look smaller. That's what they're claiming is the curve of the Earth. And that's why all the time, every single time, it seems to appear to be the case that the refraction calculator explains for it if you include the refraction. But it's nonsense. It doesn't happen. The maths is wrong. It doesn't account for the reduction in size of the target observation before applying hidden. It just applies hidden, which is actually perspective, and that's why it's bullshit. So we can't even apply the curve calcs anymore because it isn't doing the angular size resolution change, and it's only applying this hidden thing, which doesn't even account for the key thing that it needs to do, the size of the thing that you're looking at over the distance. And this is the proof. So basically, anybody on the ball earth side that thinks that this curve calculator is credible, go and debunk this video, because he's already done the maths for me, he's already done the maths for you, and by coincidence, at the same time, without knowing about it, he's come to the same conclusion that I've came to yesterday, and he only published this on the 25th of March 2018. So he's come to the same conclusion that I came to yesterday. Now, he's already done the maths, he's already presented it, and between the two of us, we've come to the same conclusion that this is not being reduced in size before the curves are being applied to it. And that's why it always appears to be explained perfectly adequately by refraction. Yeah, that's because they're not reducing the size of the building that they're applying it to. So all these lighthouses and all these mountains and all these tall buildings that we're all applying the curve calcs, we're applying the wrong curve calcs to them. The curve calcs are not reducing the size, and they're calling the hidden value perspective, they're calling the perspective curvature, but actually all they're doing is changing the perspective and calling it hidden. Now, I don't know whether that makes sense to half of you. If it doesn't, I apologise. Not everybody's going to get it. If you're towards the Dawn Treader scale, you're not going to get it, and I understand.
I'm just going to cut you off there. You've made a really good example. So just before you ad hom everyone in the audience, there will be people who definitely understand this. Ranty has demonstrated this once in the past. So he used the wind turbines and showed how much the angular size change would be in line with perspective, and showed that coincidentally it matched perfectly with what Metabunk Curve Calc said should be the hidden value as they got smaller, i.e. close to the horizon, i.e. appearing like they are dropping. But then, of course, he shows it on the x-axis and shows that they are perfectly level, perfectly flat, and everything that you're seeing is perfectly in line with perspective, in spite of the fact that it matches the curve maths, which can only mean one thing. The curve maths are perspective, with a sprinkling of the refractive hidden, i.e. the tiny little band that does actually obscure things at the horizon. But majoritively, it is just perspective that they have co-opted and called it curvature.
Correct. And this is the conclusion of his whole video. Now, it's only 7 minutes long, but it's quite heavy. So if you're going to watch it, you need to pay attention to it all the way through, because it's quite mathematical in its approach. But it has to be, because this curve calculator is what we're questioning. And what he concludes is that when you have the model, the curve calculator adjustment and the angular size adjustment, which it needs to be there because it always shrinks as it gets further away, that Mount Blanc should appear 63% of the height of the mountain in the foreground. And that means that that would drop completely behind the picture, and it wouldn't even be seen if we lived on a curve. And that's when you account for the two things that should be there. But if you only do the curve calculator adjustment, which doesn't include the angular size, it happens to match out the exact same. So the deception is the passing off the hidden value as drop, as the curve, but actually that's the perspective, and they're calling it the curve. But if you apply the perspective change and then apply the curve calculation to it, then this mountain should never, ever be seen. So if there's any baller out there, I made the point yesterday and I fluffed it a little bit in my delivery, that's fine. Now I know what I'm talking about because I'm having to literally make the science up as I go along here. But thankfully, it's already done for me. And this guy's already come to the conclusion last week or the week before. So ultimately, the point is this. Why is Mount Blanc visible in the picture? Unless you're going to argue nonsense refraction again, but we're all going to laugh at it because we know that light does not move that way. Somebody explain why it is that this appears in the picture if you were change or correct for the angular size and then apply the drop. Because when you do both things, this doesn't exist. This is proof that we live on a flat plane. It's proof that it's not a ball. And ultimately, the model that you guys worship is debunked. It's simple as that, and it stops there. There is no more conversation. So unless somebody can explain this with credible maths, this drops completely when you apply the angular size reduction in addition to the hidden value. Sorry if I bored everybody to death there, but it's important that the curve calculations are misrepresentation. They're not doing what they say they're doing. We do not view the world in an orthographic side-on view. It doesn't account for the angular size reduction. It only accounts for the drop that is actually perspective, but they're changing it and calling it curve. It's lies. It's wrong. I don't even think we should use it anymore. Just not even pander to their needs. Just say that's not the correct maths. Come back when you use the correct maths. Because unless they adjust for the angular size reduction based on the distance and can tell us what they should be, then this is even out the window. It's the wrong maths.
Yeah.
So massive shout out to Taboo Conspiracy. Massive shout out to Adam Meakin because he was the one that told me about it. And basically, 63% of the total size. The Earth's not a sphere. There is no drop. All you're doing is passing off perspective, calling it drop.
Good job explaining that, Anthony.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, the curve calculator basically assumes that all side is parallel.
Yeah.
That's what it does. It is a model perspective. It is that's even
Parallel
using the
projection.
word perspective. Yeah, it is assuming a model. So it's non-visual based, actually. It's just assuming that everything is parallel.
Yeah.
But
So
in reality, all observations are always perspective applies. So it's just completely faulty.
Yeah, so until they can get the maths right, they can't even argue. They can never, ever argue that Metabunk curve calculator again. Never. They can never, ever argue it and apply it anywhere. And that means we can go back over all of the observations, make the angular size reduction, then apply it, and then basically all of them are going to prove flat Earth, every single one of them.
Yep.
Are there any other calculators that appear to be doing the same thing,
I think
roughly?
they all do the same thing pretty much.
Yeah, because even the Dizzy Hub one doesn't account for the object getting smaller as it gets further away.
Wow. So they just completely leave perspective out of it.
Yeah, they use like a pure geometric model, right?
Yeah,
And
a
they-
parallel view.
Yeah.
They assume that everything is parallel.
But Numi, you said yesterday that if I was right, this drastically and significantly changes things. Is that still your position, right?
Well, absolutely, of course. I
Hey,
mean,
Wiggles.
clearly
How you doing?
right?
Hello.
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 Sheesh. I'm sweating.
We have a Glover here,
Yeah, Wiggles.
namely me.
Wiggles, the brilliant.
Oh,
The brilliant, the one, the only, the Wiggles. All right, so how do we do screen sharing on this? I'm going to get right to the point here. I'm going to share my entire screen. So this is how this is the math I'm using to calculate how much of an object should be visible. So it's quite simple. You just input the observer height here, say 5 meters. You input the distance to the object, say 1,000 meters. And here it shows none should be obstructed, but if I put in 10,000 meters, say, then 0.31 meters would be obstructed. That's how I calculate it, and I can derive all, right?
Forgive me for asking and interrupting. Have you made an adjustment for the angular size reduction in the object that you're looking at because of the distance?
Well, whenever an object goes farther away from you, it obviously shrinks in size. How is that relevant to whether or not you can see it?
Because you don't appear to have accounted for it in your maths, which is...
Sorry, that was the most idiotic question I've ever heard in my entire life. Things get smaller at distance. Why would that account in any way for you not being able to see it? That is a ridiculous question.
Okay, so I'll do my full screen sharing again. Let's see, there's...
Sorry, can you just acknowledge what I've said, Wiggles? So you've just asked a ludicrous question. Why would things getting smaller have anything to do with you not being able to see them? Do you understand why that's a ridiculous question to ask?
We're going to go to the Wikipedia page.
You're ignoring me, Wiggles. You seem to be ignoring me. I'm asking you, why have you asked the relevance of things becoming smaller at distance having anything to do with being able to see them?
Well, we got to figure out what we're talking about here. Like, I want to clarify the limit of angular resolution of the human eye is about 0.0003 radians.
Yeah, but that's not the point we're asking about.
now
Okay,
this
what
is
are you-
about the curve calculator, about the system that you use.
Do you agree that an object will shrink in apparent size as it gets further away?
We're talking about projective geometry now.
No, we're not.
Why? These guys dodge the question all the time. They never answer our questions directly. They always have to go around and around and around. This is insane.
So let's ask the question again. Do you agree that an object appears to change size when it gets further away?
Well, it does, yes, of course. That's how we know. That's how the brain works. Yes.
So where is it applied in your curvature calculator?
My curvature calculator does not need to know whether or not something is shrinking in size.
Yes, it does. It's absolutely and completely relevant. That is what we deal with in the real world, Wiggles. So if you're not accounting for it, we're kind of asking why you're not accounting for it, as you've just accepted that things get smaller at distance.
Okay, yes. The reason I'm not accounting for it is because
Because you're fallacious. Because you haven't bothered. Because your curve calcs are a co-opting of the perspective maths. That's why you haven't accounted for it. Because it all works out in your maths, right, Wiggles? Even though you haven't accounted for it? Were you about to tell us how wonderfully your maths worked out when you begged the question? Didn't even get to asking where your proof of R was, did we? You just beg the question. It all works out. That's what you're about to tell us. It's off screen now. But you haven't accounted for it getting smaller with distance. Why not?
I'm sorry, just listen up, please. All that matters is that an object is big enough to be seen.
Right.
That's
so
all
then you would need to account for how small it is at distance, wouldn't you, Wiggles? And you haven't.
Sorry, I didn't hear you.
You haven't accounted for how much smaller it gets at distance in your calculation.
Look, all we care is that...
All we care about is perspective in this regards, and we're specifically asking why you haven't accounted for it. Why are you telling me about what all we care about? Specifically, we care about the angular size change when you make these measurements, and you have not accounted for that specific thing.
Looks like we're both talking over each other.
No. I'm making a very clear statement about you not including the angular size change in your maths, even though you're about to tell us how your maths works out correctly, weren't you?
Okay, how big is the object?
Were you not about to tell us that your maths was correct? Wiggles, answer my question.
Okay.
Listen, open your ears, don't talk, and answer my question. Were you about to tell us about how your maths works out correctly?
No.
So you're about to tell us how it doesn't work correctly. Why was it on screen then?
No, Nathan, you need to understand the concept
Don't
of
tell me what I need to understand. Tell me why you're about to show us something that doesn't work. Are you a retard? Why would you present something that doesn't work? That makes no sense, Wiggles.
Nathan, what is the color of this...
Don't be an idiot. I don't want to know your ham-handed segue to colours of nonsense. Right? We are asking why your bullshit calculation that you were absolutely about to assert works out perfectly does not account for angular size change.
Nathan, let me add
an example. If you want an honest representation of what you're actually seeing, then you have to apply angular size change in the maths.
Right.
All we care is that something is big.
No, it doesn't matter about what you care about. It should be in there to be correct.
Okay, it is
because it exists.
Excellent. Show us.
Where is it?
Show us.
It's in the fact that look, you take look. I do.
Show us. Put your maths on screen and show us where the angular size is accounted for in your maths. Put it back up on screen. You've taken it down now for some unknown reason.
I'll share my entire screen. Okay, yeah. My screen is being shared. It's not on the stream yet.
I'm waiting for you to put the maths up. Put the maths on it. The maths that you had a moment ago. So you can show us where the angular size change is accounted for. There we go.
That's in a separate calculation. Like
excuse me? You just told me it was accounted for in that calculation. What the hell are you now talking about? Why is it off screen again, Wiggles? What are you doing? Put it back on screen so we can rip you a new asshole about why you haven't accounted for angular size change, you disingenuous liar.
Okay, look.
Put your maths back on screen now.
Put your maths back on screen.
Here we go.
Can we have a couple of places?
Right, now show me with your pointer where the angular size change is.
Right here, we hope that right here, that the object is big enough to be seen.
What? We hope? You absolute buffoon. You hope that it'll be big enough to be seen? No. Why are you moving things around again on your screen, Wiggles? Is it because we've got your toes to the fire and you don't want people to see that you haven't accounted for this like a complete muppet?
I have accounted for it, though.
No, you pointed to an angle on a globe and said you hoped. I'm not interested in what you hope, Wiggles, you pathetic little worm. Your maths doesn't work because you haven't accounted for it. You said it's in a separate calculation, then you pointed to an angle on a part of a sphere. Now, didn't you?
The calculations are separate and the same. That's the only way I can...
Oh, they're the same, are they? That's our argument, Wiggles, that you've co-opted the angular size change. That's what we're arguing now, isn't it?
That's very zen of you, They're separate and the same. It's very zen of
questions, and you better shut up and listen if you want an answer to the question you're asking. You got it, Nathan?
Can we let Wiggles just say his bit here?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Like, I don't think he's right, but let's just let him go through it. When we're not interrupted.
Okay. Look, you got your kid crying there, Nathan. Look.
No, that's a troll.
No, that's a troll.
Oh,
Wrong
okay.
again, Wiggles, you moron.
Get the trolls out of here.
Yeah, go ahead, be my guest, Wiggles, you dick.
Okay, so I'll get the trolls out of here. We got to explain this.
Go on then.
So
Get the trolls out of
I
here.
don't think I'm being screen shared to the live stream.
I'm waiting for the maths to go back up. I want to see the angular size change in the mathematics, not a diagram that you draw now on the fly. In the maths you've prepared that you haven't got on screen and keep taking off screen. I want them on screen. When they are, I'll put you back up.
I think he pretty much...
You're going to look through there, and then I'm going to scroll away from that to the calculation of angular size, and you're going to say, oh, you didn't account for it. The fact, Nathan, here, look, I'm going to explain it to you in terms that a 5-year-old can understand. I cannot fit the calculation for the Earth curve and the angular size on the same goddamn screen at the same goddamn time.
Oh, well,
That's
not?
why I keep
Why not?
changing screens.
I'm sorry,
Why not?
does Excel have a limitation on how big or small the text has to be?
No, hang on, Nathan. He said he had it accounted for before, and now he's just changed his position.
Yeah,
Look,
dancing around.
Look, let's talk about angular size, all right?
Yeah,
Wait,
we are.
Can I just ask you, do you understand the point that Anthony made before you came on the show? Can you just like maybe explain what you think the point that Anthony made was? Just so that we're clear about what we're debating about? So we're not talking past each other?
You're
Hey,
debating whether or not angular size is taken account for in the curve calculator.
Right, but in the video he showed, do you understand the problem about how the angular size is being so what is being claimed as curvature is actually the angular size? Do you understand the argument that he's making about that?
Curvature and angular size are two different entities, and to mix them up is to conflate and to confuse.
Right.
No, they are required to be there if we have a distance observation.
Well, no, but they're conflated and confused in the globe Earth.
In the flat Earth model, yes.
Oh, in the globe Earth, I said. So I'm just trying to make sure that you understand what you're addressing here, just so that we don't talk past each other.
Okay, so it appears. Do you understand the definition of angular size? Can you define that for me right now?
Yeah, we understand what angular size is.
Anyone here define it?
Yeah, it's the rate something reduces given its distance.
No, angular size is not a rate. It's not meters per second or volts per second. It's nothing like that. It is a radian measure. It's an angle measure.
It's the angle that's subtended by the viewer of a distant object.
Yes, so I'll show you how to calculate it. Would you like me to show you?
We don't need that. What I'm asking you is if you understood what the point was that Anthony Riley was making in relation to the video that he was explaining, and his criticism of the curve calculator on that basis.
Look, if you're saying that angular size is a rate, then you got no idea what the hell angular size is, and whatever that discussion is null. So let me define for you angular size.
I never said that.
Yeah, I said
that just then. I hope you were listening.
What we want you to do is either tell us that you understood the point and recite the point that was back to us.
Okay, recite the point for me then. Let's do that.
Or show us the curve calculation in your maths that you had on screen before and where the angular size resolution adjustment is. If you can't do either of them, you're obfuscating. So pick.
Anthony, maybe work with him here to try to I just think this is a real opportunity to have this conversation with somebody, right?
I think it's an opportunity to hang someone to the cross.
Well, I agree with you, but let's just make sure that he knows what cross that he's choosing to die on here.
Okay.
Right?
So right again, it looks like you guys are hoping for me to die on some cross. You're not open to the fact that you guys might be wrong.
No, because we spent hours yesterday carefully examining the issue.
Oh, hours! Oh, poor baby spent hours calculating something. He's afraid to throw it all away. I've thrown shit away that I've worked on for years. So get used to it. That's how it works in science.
Okay, I'm trying to defend your being given a fair shake here. So you don't need to complain about me whining. But I'm just making sure that we're all clear about what's even being argued about.
Okay, so let's be clear about what's being argued about. The talking stick is given to you, Arwen, I think your name is?
Anthony.
Anthony, the talking stick is given to Anthony right now. What are we debating?
We're asking you to explain what the presentation I just made was, or show us the maths in your calculations that address and account for angular size reduction.
Okay, you need a third option that the math that I'm using does not even really need to use.
Right, your maths does need to account for an angular size change, Wiggles. Absolutely, unequivocally, things do get smaller as they get further away from you. It's just a simple fact of life. You can choose to ignore it all you like. Things get smaller as they get further away. End of story. If you haven't accounted for it, that's not our problem.
Let me just do a quick calculation. I know calculations piss you guys off, but the arctangent of, and I'm going to do this in radians, the arctangent
Rumpusing this up, dude.
of, let's see, arctangent of the back blue island is about 130 meters. Right, this is the same, and it's about 60,000 meters away. That's 0.002, which is greater than 0.0003, which is the angular resolution limit of the human eye. Therefore, it's about, you can see it's about 10 times as large as it needs to be seen. That's all I care.
Yeah, but angular size
Yeah.
does not take into account things actually getting smaller because they're further away.
Angular size is the definition of things getting smaller and going.
Redefines the size through how much you
put my screen up.
in your observation. It does not replace actual size because of distance. It has nothing to do with it.
Right now, and we're going to define angular size.
No, you don't have to define
it.
Yeah,
you need to show you account for it.
No, you don't.
Definitions.
No, it's just another way to approach how big something is in your view.
Angular size. Like
it doesn't account for size reduction due to perspective.
We all know what angular.
It has nothing to do with it.
That's not the problem here. We know what it means.
Oh, do you?
Yes.
Yeah, we do.
What is it?
Look, we are trying to establish if you account for it or not.
How
right?
big something is.
How big?
By how much
give me a unit.
Angle it takes up in your view. That's angular size.
Units, Anthony.
Hey, can anyone hear me? Hi, I'm Josh. I've just joined the panel. Excuse me, does anyone realize that this argument you're having right now is completely debunking your idea of how the sun sets on the flat Earth?
Who cares? Shut up.
Yeah, it's tough to get into topics. I know we need to start from like very common grounds.
Yeah, do you agree that objects
you guys are actually complete opposite now? You're trying to say that because things get smaller as they go away, but the sun doesn't get smaller as it goes.
Right, let's just shut Josh up immediately. Josh has absolutely no idea what the sun is. Who cares? Moving on.
No, he's come to obfuscate, and let's just not. Let's not play because this is a good opportunity. I want to see. Let's try to calm down and have this conversation and not be all ornery.
Let's stay on topic, right? So we're going to ask the question that we asked you about 20 minutes ago. Do you have in your maths that you brought on screen before the adjustment for angular size resolution or not? And if you don't,
why need an
why
adjustment?
is it missing? If you don't, why is it missing?
Why? What adjustment do I need to make?
You need to.
Is that a no or a yes? No, it's just
listen. Anthony just went over this at the beginning of the show. Why are you asking a question? It's like you didn't even watch and just jumped on so you could puke all over us.
Yeah, yes or no? Do you account for it or don't you?
What needs to be account? Like what adjustment needs to be made?
Right, I'm going to say straight away that if he's asking what needs to be adjusted for, that he has not adjusted for it.
No, maybe I have, maybe I haven't.
What do you mean, maybe? What a crap answer. If you don't know what you haven't accounted for, you're a moron.
No, it's just I'm leaving this open. I want to know what adjustment should I be making.
You tell us. We've told you that angular size needs to be accounted for.
Now we need to go back to the English language. The English language is spoken in such a way that there is a subject and a verb, a thing and its doing. An adjustment
Wiggles,
must be
listen to
made.
me.
What
Wiggles,
must
listen.
the adjustment
Stop
be doing?
obfuscating, man.
Just
Stop
don't interrupt
obfuscating.
No, but just stop interrupting each other on both sides. Pointless.
Wiggles, the question that you're asking was the opening montage that Anthony went through. You're asking a question that was the...
It made no sense to me.
No. Well, then you shouldn't call in and try to speak on something you don't understand.
Plain truth, no problem, no problem. No problem. If it, hold on. If it made no sense to him, hold on, Wiggles, hold on, plain truth, please. No problem, no problem. If it didn't make any sense to him, obviously he hasn't accounted for it. So we can make a firm check mark in that box. Wiggles has not accounted.
I may or may...
Shut up, Wiggles. You may or may not. You don't understand it. All obfuscation nonsense can be eradicated with a big fat check mark. You haven't. We all damn well know it. You can try and obfuscate around it indefinitely. We all know it implicitly. You haven't accounted for it. That's why you took the maths off screen immediately.
I have accounted for it. I know.
Oh, now you have. You may have. You may not have. You don't understand what it is. You want us to define it, and now you have. You're just a liar.
Look, while I'm listening to you guys, I'm also playing in my head to myself the correct maths.
Well, you've already had the correct math on screen. You've already showed us what you asserted to be the correct math, and then said, oh, well, maybe I'm not showing you correct math. Well, then why the hell was it even here, you complete muppet?
Listen, Anthony, you did such a good job. Wait. Anthony, you did such a good job of explaining this at the beginning that maybe we can just rehash the point for Wiggles' benefit so that we can create a dialogue on the subject here. Because I think that would be the best way to proceed at this point, because we're talking past each other here.
Yeah, I'll do it in one sentence for you so it's straightforward. As things move further from the observer, they get smaller. That hasn't been accounted for in the maths, and it directly affects the hidden value on the metabunk curve calc.
Sorry, what?
That's the best reply you'll get, Anthony. That was as concise as you could put it.
No. I want...
What? I might have accounted for it. Maybe if you could say it again in words of less than one syllable.
I'll say it again, and I'll say it slow. As an object goes further from the observer, its apparent size reduces. On the metabunk curve calculator, that adjustment has not been made, and it directly affects the hidden value of the shrunken mountain or whatever, and that's a problem. Do you understand?
You're conflating things. Give me an example of this. Like, just get like an abstract example. Give me an abstract example of what you should see in reality, and then use an actual reality observation to see.
No problem. Lampposts get smaller into the distance, regardless of whether or not there's a curve there or the distance that you observe them. You have a vanishing point. Simple.
But we have the example that clearly shows what Anthony was describing. Like it was based on a specific example. So Anthony, why don't you just show him the specific example one more time here? Be as fair as possible.
Okay. Do you see my screen?
Yes, so just please explain this point, because this point absolutely illustrates the argument perfectly, right? Then we can proceed from there.
Can you see my screen, Wiggles?
Mm-hmm. I can.
Taboo conspiracy. What are we in now? May, March, April, May. So 2 months ago, Taboo conspiracy came to the same conclusion that I came to yesterday on the show. Or I came to the same conclusion that he did 2 months ago. Either way, there was an independent meeting of minds, and the question was, why does it appear that the curve calcs appear to show the same thing both ways? Because it always seems to support both versions, right? And it makes it very difficult to comprehend which one is correct, and it shouldn't be. We don't live on an Earth that is fluid. We live on an Earth that is solid, and there is not a continuously variable radius. It shouldn't appear to be similar on both models. One model must be proven wrong. Now, in this 7-minute video, Taboo Conspiracy references Mount Blanc. It's 196 kilometers away at a height of 4,810 meters, I believe, from this image. but the mountain that's next to it is significantly closer and significantly smaller. And the question he was trying to work out was, if the Earth was flat, which one would appear higher to the observer? And then what would the position be on the ball? And what he worked out was that when you do the curve calculator on the Metabunk website, it matches this observation. However, when you do the perspective adjustment on a flat plane, this also matches. And it can't be the case that both of them are the same. One of them must be wrong. One of them has got a mistake in it. All he did was apply perspective maths on a flat plane. One process, one mathematical adjustment or equation. That was it. That's all that's required on a flat plane. But it shouldn't match the Metabunk curve calculator. It shouldn't be the case that the curve calculator makes the same observation for a flat plane appear the same. So what he did was looked at why it was that the curve calculator was coming out with the same answer. And the answer he came to was that there was no adjustment for the angular size resolution change. The mountains have not been shrunken given their distance at 196 kilometers away. When you do adjust for the mountain size and then apply the refraction on the Metabunk curve calculator, it directly affects the drop, so that the effect of Mount Blanc drops 63% of the height of the mountain in the foreground. In other words, if we lived on a ball, the mountain would be down here somewhere. That's not what we see on the picture. So the conclusion the gentleman came to in this video said that if you do the globe model curve adjustments on the Metabunk website and do the angular size reduction, Mount Blanc disappears to half the height almost of the mountain that he's comparing it to. That proves that we don't live on a sphere. It proves that we live on a ball, and it also proves that the Metabunk curve calculator are not adjusting for the angular size, which is the point I made at the beginning of the show. You should go back and watch it. And it was the point that I made a fluff of yesterday when I was trying to get my words out, and I didn't do a good job. So don't look at yesterday's. Look at the beginning presentation in this, and you tell us why this guy's got this wrong. Because this should not be seen if the Earth's a ball. Because this mountain in the background, Mount Blanc, should be half the height of the mountain in the foreground, and it should not be visible in the image. This proves a flat Earth, and it proves that the Metabunk curve calculator fails to address the angular size reduction.
Yeah,
okay. I heard all of that. You lost me way in the beginning, so it was just that you were just doing talking, and it made no sense to me.
Wiggles. Okay, so that's a problem, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what I was gonna say. You don't understand the point being made. So we can't have this argument yet.
Yeah.
Right?
So now I have to ask you this very important question: is there anything at all, any observation that could be made that would convince any of you guys here who think the Earth is flat? Is there any observation that could be made that would change your mind and convince you that the Earth is round?
Why don't we just stay on topic, okay? Because
no, that is a yes or no question. Is
right,
there any...
Wiggles? I asked you a yes or no question in regards to whether or not you included this angular size change in your mathematics that you suddenly got off screen because they worked perfectly until we introduced this measurement. Now you can't stop talking, and then you want to change the subject. So, can we get a conclusive check mark in that box that you haven't accounted for?
Angular size. I've tried to do my calculations.
I can answer your question.
You haven't accounted for it.
I can answer your question. No, it's very simple. It's very simple.
Don't answer it. Let's really
No, I can. Let's just do it. Let's just do it. Yeah, there are some observations that could convince me that the Earth is not flat in the globe. Mainly, if in all observations you would never ever see any of those things in the far distance, there would never be a direct line of sight. That would convince me.
Okay,
it's not the case, is it?
Let's go back to the argument then here, okay?
Right, back to angular size change. Yes, if you can summarize it for me, Nummy, I'd be really grateful.
But the Earth can be round, very large.
Nummy, we're not changing the subject. Sorry, not Nummy. Wiggles, we're not changing the subject. We're sticking with angular size change. Yeah, you brought up a whole load of complicated maths and now you want to talk about something crappy. So shut your mouth. Nummy's going to summarize it. Shut your mouth and listen.
Well, no, what am I summarizing? I don't know. What I'm trying to do is just mediate between Sleeping Warrior and Wiggles here. Like, because I just think, like, Wiggles, you don't understand the argument that's being presented to you. I mean,
I think the argument that's being made is unintelligible. Now, I'm willing to just start from the beginning. Just start from something that we can all understand.
Okay. No, Wiggles.
Intelligible. It was clear as day.
It was completely intelligible. I understood it. Okay.
The rest of the world didn't. I
No,
can
you
see
right.
half
because
of the
you've
globe
turned off your
believing
mind.
people.
It's
this guy
very,
off.
very,
You're
Right. A minute ago,
straightforward.
Wiggles was all
Zero
for
sense
saying.
to us.
Hold on, let's
Get this
one at a
guy off.
time. One at a
Start
time.
from the beginning.
A minute
Turn
ago,
off your brain.
Wiggles. A minute ago, you may or may not have included this. So it may or may not have
Purposely
important.
misunderstanding it. It is very straightforward. It's very obvious. You're being a
You guys can't have
dumbass
it
on
both ways,
purpose.
though. You can't have it both ways. You can't have that
None
mountains
of this
get
is
smaller,
dumbass. You being
but
a
you
dumbass.
can't have
None of
that the
this
sun
language. Okay,
stays the
that's
same size.
unconstructive.
You're
to
being a
any discussion.
dumbass on purpose.
Excuse me. Don't use that language if we're trying to have a proper discussion.
You're being an idiot on purpose.
Excuse me, Erwin. Please refrain from that
You're
language.
turning
on this show.
off your mind.
Yeah, he is. Obfuscating,
You're turning off. You're
playing
like
dumb.
turning yourself
Again,
into a
please
2-year-old
refrain from
just to
even
not understand what
insults
we
like
so
that.
clearly explain. It's very easy for anyone to understand, and to assume
I
that
have
the rest
It
of
is
the
not-
world would
I'm
not
speaking on
understand
behalf of
is
all
a
the people
direct
out there, the
insult on the
99%
average
of the
intelligence of
population
humanity.
that thinks the Earth
Any
is round.
Right, you do
IQ
not speak
person
no
would
sense
on behalf of
understand what we
99% of the
just
population.
explained. You're being a dumbass on purpose.
Can I agree with
Excuse me,
this?
do not use that language on a public YouTube channel.
Dumbass. You're a
Do
dumbass.
not use
The
that
point-
language.
You're a dumbass.
No,
Stop
Wiggles.
using that
point-
language.
Wait. Let me have a word. At the beginning of my demonstration this morning, at the beginning of the show, I did put out a disclaimer that said some people will not understand this because it's quite intellectually strong. Not everybody.
Oh my fuck!
I
you
got
guys are driving me
autism from a
fucking insane.
vaccine.
Wiggles, there's no
You guys are
need for that.
driving me fucking insane.
Wiggles,
and-
what are you doing? Wiggles, hold on, everybody. Hold on,
In
Wiggles.
this
Why have you
idiotic
just told
show.
Arwen off for calling you a
Fuck you
dumbass?
all. Goodbye. Have a nice.
Oh, it's a
fucking-
rage quit, is it? Oh, really? Go on then.
Yeah.
Goodbye.
Okay, please don't let Pete in. Please do not let Pete in.
So Wiggles rage quit.
Some people wouldn't get
When
that.
it came to the point that he played dumb and we pointed out just how dumb he was, he rage quit.
Hey guys. Hey Nathan. Hi. Hello. I didn't get a hello. from
Hey, how
everyone.
you doing? Sorry to jump down your throat. You can go ahead with your son comparison.
No, that's okay. That's okay. I just came on and you actually guys were right. I was getting lagging over here, so I had to jump on just to not get lagging. But I do have just a couple of questions. First question is where are you guys going to go from here? Do you guys have a plan for your next step, or are you just going to keep taking sort of photos?
Well,
We're just
it would
doing
be good to actually now dig into all the curve calculators and see
Hang on a second.
if they all consistently do not have
Hang on,
perspective
sounds-
applied in them.
Arwen, that sounds like a concession on behalf of our baller friend. Did you not just accept then that we made a really valid point about not showing the shape of the Earth?
No, I honestly think that you guys are just taking like photos. That's all you're doing. You're not like, where are you gonna go? Do you guys have a plan or a structure, or have you got
But
a?
you know,
We're gonna
what
keep
you're
showing
failing
the
to
Earth.
what you're failing to understand is that Anthony's made a very specific argument here, right? About that the curve calculator, especially as shown in this video that he used as an example, is not taking into account both the curvature and the angular size, right? So it's only accounting for one of them when it would have to account for both in order to be a valid calculation, right?
Yeah,
So
but you can't
address that
really use the
point.
angular size thing, because you guys, as far as I know, the flat Earth explanation for the sun not getting smaller as it gets further away
Yeah, but
from
we're
us.
looking
as
at a
it gets
specific example about a photo of a mountain, right?
smaller as it gets.
Yeah, we're being sniped, guys.
Did he get sniped? I think he's been sniped.
Yeah,
No, I haven't. I don't think I have been.
now some people are being sniped.
Someone went. Who's gone?
Nami's gone.
Sniping
But-
people
but-
off the
okay,
panel is
so-
a very
okay, that was
autistic
just
thing to
question number
do.
one, was what was your plan? Where are you going to go forward? And I didn't. You
We're
didn't
just
really
gonna
answer
point
that.
out the flaws in the perception that we live on a sphere because we have no money, we have no scientists, we have no support. There is no science
Okay.
for a flat Earth, right?
Okay, cool. Yeah, you got nothing. NASA gets $50 million a day and rah, rah, rah. Okay, fine. Question number 2 is in the next month, I'm down in Australia, right? And I'm about to go on a tour, and I'm about to go pretty much all around Australia. So I'm going to be going about 2,000 kilometers in the north-south direction and about 4,000 kilometers in the east-west direction.
So what?
And I'll be doing like daytime kind of stuff. So I'll be at night. I'll be available just to do flat Earth nonsense.
Cool. Can you take a gyroscope with you?
Yeah. Okay, go. No, thank you, Aaron. What experiments? What do you think would
Take
be?
a gyroscope with you. Keep it spun up all day and night.
No,
And just
I know,
move all over the place. Yeah, let's just see.
I've got some flat Earth nonsense for you. The video that I've spent all hangout talking about. Go and tell me where it's wrong. Tell me how he's got it wrong, and tell me why it's not right.
I'm sorry, Riley. I don't know what you're talking about.
Go and look at the first.
Riley.
Yeah, everybody's getting sniped, but we're gonna go on a break soon anyway.
Well, I'm not sure. Well, look, I'd like you guys to think about it. Okay, I'm about to go thousands of kilometers in east, west, and north-south directions. And what can you guys think of an experiment that you would think would be a good thing to do? And Arwen, gyroscope. Okay, cool. What? Anything else though? Any observational things? Because I mean, what if you're going to say a gyroscope? I guess you're going to need to detail exactly how I'm going to do it. And
yeah.
Josh. And if you think about the reality of it...
No problem. Let me just give Josh's answer before we round out for a break and I draw an end to this part of the show. So if you can bear to listen to it, Josh, if you want to do an experiment, you need to look at a specific methodology in terms of what experimentation is to establish cause and effect relationships. That methodology is called the scientific method. So if you're intending to establish cause and effect relationships, that's what you need to adhere to. Adhere to science. The thing that you guys constantly claim is on your side. Do a bit of science, because if that's what you're intending to do by experimenting, then yeah, you need to formulate a hypothesis and observe a phenomenon, and then you can actually draw a conclusion about a cause and effect. And with that, I'm going to say first and foremost, a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of the debating panel for making this debate possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of the audience for tuning in. If you hated this show, you know what to do. But if you like the show, maybe consider subscribing, sharing. Anyway, I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!